Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. And we've obviously just had the weekly close. Today is Monday, the 21st of July. And what we're looking at here is the Bitcoin dominance chart to start with. The weekly Bitcoin dominance chart for Bitcoin saw a significant pullback, which is fantastic for altcoins, and we'll get into that in a second. But we've essentially erased 19 weeks of Bitcoin strength in 1 week with significant volume to the downside, suggesting to me this is probably the start of a trend. Like if we look back to this area where it was last alt season, which was back in December of 2020, what we saw was the red volume candles started to outgrow the green, meaning that sellers were in control of the market, or in this case, like Bitcoin dominance falling is more likely than rising. When volume is green, it means there are obviously more buyers than sellers, and when it's red, it means there's more sellers than buyers. And not only is it red in these areas, it was also higher than any volume we'd seen before. And pretty much we're starting to see that same thing again. Yes, there is an anomaly candle right here, which has green volume higher than the red of last week. But the red volume is starting to grow at 3 or 4 red weeks, one with significant loss of price unsupported by volume. To me, this probably suggests that what we've seen in the last week or 2 weeks is the start of a larger move and trend for Bitcoin and altcoins, meaning that alts probably continue to outperform Bitcoin. And if we move at the same speed, it's about 7 weeks that we would see this, that would bring us down to 39% for Bitcoin. And that would be if we moved, this is obviously not to scale, that would be if we moved at the exact same speed. It would just look something like this-ish. Obviously it's not 7 weeks, but you can see what I'm trying to show. That's the sort of structure, that's what it's done previously. Look, it's just a straight line down essentially. But honestly, there's no reason why we couldn't do something like this for 2 or 3 weeks down to here. And then people think, okay, that's it, because we start to see this level maybe act as support. And then we have a little bit of a bounce, and then we continue down. And I honestly do believe we hit this cycle, this target down here. And why do I believe that? Well, I wrote about this actually in the weekly newsletter, but we'll just discuss it. Actually, we'll show you the newsletter first. I wrote about a few things in this weekly newsletter, which is free to read over there on Substack, link in the description below. But what I showed you was the XRP versus US dollar chart inverted versus Bitcoin dominance chart. And to me, this looks very similar in structure. I know we've talked about this. It's showing XRP obviously trying to break making all-time highs back in 2017, 2018, and then having a long accumulation period, and then now breaking through all-time highs and probably setting lower, higher highs, and I think significantly higher highs, obviously, for XRP. And Bitcoin dominance structure is very similar, but yet has not come down to the bottom of the range, which I think it will. That's one of the reasons I think it will. But I also think the only reason I'm showing you this is not necessarily because XRP and the dollar is leading Bitcoin dominance, although I've suggested it could be. The structure of the chart is what I'm trying to show. The chart structure is very similar. And this is what I've been saying for a long time. To me, if we just take these drawings off, look, this is a continuation pattern. You fall down and then you accumulate or distribute, and then you fall again. That's how these patterns work. It's not setting higher highs. We've come down, we've set a range high, we've continued almost like a bear flag, and then we continued to the downside. That's as far as as easy as I can explain that to everybody. It's continuation, in my opinion. So you fall into a pattern that you then can't break to the upside. It's just basically buying time until the pattern continues. As far as I'm concerned, as far as technical analysis goes, that's what I think will happen here. So what else are we looking at? Let's look at some of the weekly closes. Bitcoin weekly close. I don't know if it was the highest ever. I don't think it was. No, it had a slight pullback on the weekly close, but XRP had its highest ever weekly close, which is exciting, obviously, for everyone who's an XRP holder. ETH didn't have its highest ever weekly close, but we saw significant price gain from ETH this week. For some reason, my laptop is absolutely booted off again. It's probably got Trading Different open. So let's quickly look at Trading Different. This is XRP's liquidity. What we can see is significant liquidity to the upside is building all the way now up to about 426. I do honestly think it's imminent that we get a move up to these levels, probably within this week. I would say that we see 450 probably this week if we continue with the same sort of vein. And I was saying to you guys, based on what happened in Bitcoin's structure the last time we were somewhere like this, and the velocity in which we broke out, that we probably take this level above us for Bitcoin imminently, and that's when you probably see XRP go for its higher levels as well. So I've closed those things to hopefully help my chart, and it does look like if we just take us to the daily or the hourly, let's take us to the hourly, the Bitcoin could be trying to wake up out of this range. Look, we came up, we created a range, we swept the highs, we swept the lows, now we're consolidating. For me, the next leg is a push higher there for Bitcoin. Now, looking at XRP, it's very similar. XRP's touching, this is XRP's all-time high, 365. We're playing with that range. We came down over the weekend, broke the recent swing highs, held the lows, and now have slightly taken the highs. Waiting for a decision, but looking for XRP to potentially break out here. And ETH is touching its swing highs right now, looking for that breakout. Going on to ENAs, this is a token that we've been trading a lot. I said I've sold 50% of my position on Twitter. That was actually a lie. Well, it wasn't a lie. I did sell 50%. And then I actually sold the other 50% yesterday as well. Whether that's a good decision or not, only the future will know, obviously. The reason for me selling all of my position is because I felt overexposed to the market. And it's a good time to be overexposed. But to give you an idea of the amount of cash that I had compared to exposure, I was probably like 0.2% cash and 99.8% exposed, and now I'm probably like 4 or 5% cash and 95% exposed. Now I've sold my ENA, so that also gives me a cash buffer to live on for a little while, a few years probably. So it was quite a large position. Made decent profit, 100% in a few in 2 weeks. And if we pull back, I'll be looking at this area here for a solid support, and this here for a weaker support. This is where I'd like to enter if we can get an entry. I don't know if we'll definitely get it. Let me show you on the daily. Is that why I've got this drawn in like this? I don't know why my structure is exactly like that, but I will have seen a structure change there somewhere. Maybe it's the 3-day. I don't know exactly why. Let's try the hourly then. But yeah, this is the area that I'm looking at. 36 cent to 31 if we get it. If we don't, fantastic for everyone still in the position. Congratulations. I have a tiny bit left, but in regards to what my exposure was, it's like 5%. Just because I felt too exposed. I wanted some cash, and it gives me the opportunity to hold my XRP bag for longer, because I don't need to take profit into cash, because I don't need the cash as much as I would have if I hadn't sold my ENA. So what we're looking for now for ENA, the reasons I sold it on a technical level is on the daily RSI is the highest it's ever been. Also is a daily bearish divergence with the highs here being lower in terms of oscillator than price. But I do think there is significant or definite honest argument to say, look, you've broken out the range highs, next phase ZERP it to the target, as Cred would say, ZERP it or send it to the target. But I didn't want to take the chance, and I do think it's not likely, but possible we come down to at least 40 cent, if not to the 37 level. If we don't, I'm happy with my take profit, and if we do, I will enter about 50% of the position again, just to be completely transparent. So finally, just to finish this video, let's look at XRP and XRP dominance and XRP against Bitcoin. XRP dominance looks absolutely pretty fantastic and literally can't explain how fantastic this looks. We're at range highs. Yes, we're up there with the RSI as well. But if we take us to the weekly, excuse me, if we take us to the weekly, what we can see is volume stepping in. We're, again, as I was saying, at range highs. We get a crack of these range highs and we probably send it towards 14 to 20% dominance. Similar story with XRP Bitcoin. We're literally at the last real resistance level here. Crack this and we probably head up at least another from the highs, probably 200%, potentially up to 500% against Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin continues, say that Bitcoin goes to 135, 140, 150, things are going to get exciting, and they get exciting pretty quick. So be prepared for that. Be prepared to take some money off the table if XRP does do these things. I'll be absolutely transparent with you guys as to when I'm taking profit. It does depend on the XRP Bitcoin chart, XRP dominance chart, Bitcoin dominance, and also XRP USD. People are saying, oh, am I taking at 8? Am I taking at 10? Am I taking at 12, 15, 17? I'll be completely transparent as to when I'm taking. I'm trying not to take for as long as possible. Not necessarily the right tactic for everybody if you don't live the charts like I do. A strong take profit plan, sticking to your guns is the easiest thing to do. I'm not going to necessarily nail this cycle. It's not, no one nails the cycle. I'm just going to do my best and I'll communicate as to what and why I'm doing things. But fingers crossed that we start to see this breakout now. I think it could come this week. I'm prepared for it. And just to finish off this video, I will say go and have a read of the weekly newsletter, completely free. Came out on Saturday. Packed full of information with like different areas that I'm looking at for XRP. Pab talks about what exchanges are doing on-chain analysis. So definitely worth checking that out, as I said, for free. If you want to trade on any leverage, I have a link to MEXC and WEX in the description of this video. They are non-KYC exchanges. I use both. If you want to trade XRP memes, I've not talked about them in this video. Maybe we'll talk about them tomorrow. They look like they're starting to wake up a little bit. I would have a look at a few of those. Which one goes up? Again, anyone's guess. But if XRP goes up, the ecosystem probably does well as well. And we're trying to outperform our XRP holdings. So all that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button and the like button and share it with a friend. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.